Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new Patreon. Today, I just want to show you a few examples on the new npm solver. I tried it out with like a couple of tests set up, and I must say I'm pretty impressed, first of all, by the flexibility you get with like point-based simulation. Another thing is sometimes, and yeah, in exclamation marks, sometimes speed. So it can be pretty fast, but it also can be really, really slow. Um, so for example, what I did was RBD, like mainly deforming simulation with the metal preset, and it was really slow. But of course, there will be, I hope so, improvements in the future. But for now, I will show this setup now, which is a small, really small setup, and then a few others. So you can explore that, rebuild them, and yeah. So that was a setup. Because I was the last few days, I was in Antwerp at the Us by Night festival, and it was really cool to meet creative people again and to connect with some people that you like basically mainly only see via Google Meet or in the meeting or in Slack with huddles, etc. So it really was really cool to connect to your like colleagues, studio colleagues, clients, etc. Um, and there was one shop in Antwerp and they sold like granular soap, and they had like a little robot arm that goes like repetitively through this little grains of soap. And I just wanted to build that setup, but with a little bit of a twist, with like this viscosity. And yeah, I came up with with something like this here, which I think is pretty cool, and you can really adapt that to a lot of ways. Because when you look at it closely, for example, like this corner here, um, there is plasticity, there is also viscosity, and I think you really can adapt that to a few pretty cool setups. And the setup is pretty simple. So what we will do today, we will rebuild that. Um, yeah, now you can see it on the screen. The cool thing is you can also basically initialize, for example, like a float attribute. So you can use that later, for example, for shading. But of course, that's fully up to you if you want to use that, if you don't use it. And the setup is really basic. I also played with a few others, so I will cover them in the next months. There is, for example, what you also can do with npm pretty quickly is soft body setups. I think there is already like a soft body preset, so you can try out that one on your own because I think it's really cool. And of course, all the presets from npm are really nice. So just try them out, hack them a little bit, play around with them. And for example, this one, this is like really a simple. Oh, the viewport, I hate it. This is like a really simple setup here with a few soft bodies. And there's one thing in 20.5 287, which is the viewport. I think it's sometimes really bugged. So with like viewport stuff, especially with npm, so there are sometimes like overlaying templates, overlaying display flags, and you need to reset it a lot of, in my opinion, to just get like a working environment which is, yeah, pretty annoying, but I hope they will fix it. But viewport errors in Houdini, I think everyone knows that. Especially there are also some, or not especially, unfortunately, some viewport bugs with the new info menu and with the display and attribute thing and with that thing here. So it can be sometimes pretty frustrating. But for example, this one here is like really simple soft body setup and with a subdivide, and also the I love that icon with the new wrinkle deformer, which is in my opinion really cool. Yeah, and you can just pretty fast build a setup, for example, like this one here, which is pretty cool, and you get a lot of details, especially with like the wrinkle deformer. So we will play around with that, of course, in the future too. But now let's tackle this setup. I will give you a quick overview on how I did that, and then we will rebuild that. So what I have here is a simple box, transforming that up. Then wait, let me just get to frame 1. Then what I did is I created the npm source for honey. So it's kind of a more of a viscous kind of thing. Of course, you could also use like sand. I think that would also create like a really cool effect, in my opinion. And let's just give it the last pass here. So we are currently running around 3.8 million points. And then we've got this little setup, which is just like a collider and another collider, and one collider is moving. This one here. And then basically the npm solver with no additional forces and the container. So we will build that now from scratch. And there's also this little set float, which is basically a custom attribute. And it looks like this is, for example, a viewport bug. So like the colliders are displayed, not displayed, and the only thing currently displayed is our little npm source, and I'm currently also getting a freeze, which is pretty annoying. But yeah, I cannot basically see my attribute here. So what I hate it so much. I don't know if you can hear or see anything. Reset viewport. I hope you can hear me and see something. Okay. Let's just build that. Okay, what we need is a simple box. So we will start with a box. This will be basically our little container. So you can choose whatever size you want. I got like roughly like a aspect ratio from like 2:1. So it will fit like the Instagram screen stuff. So I can post it in a story. And then we need also the same thing for the source and for the collider, etc. So what I want to do, I want to set up that as our collider first. So let's place down a blast node here, and I want to blast away the top here. And after that, I can place an extrude, poly extrude. And what I want to displace it like a little bit. I want to just output the front. So I want to get a little bit of padding in here, recopy the whole thing, and then output basically both and the back. So we got a little bit of padding here to our original container. So if we just color that one in, for example, you can see we have a little bit of padding to our original initialized source that we will create now. Let's get a transform here and move that a little bit up. And what I want to do is to place down an npm source. We will use the relax iterations. And for now, Ane, a viscous. This will be our null. This will be out source. So we got that. And after that, we need, of course, our container. So npm container. And we will drag that in here. So now we should already see that we've got points. Then we need a npm solver and the collider, of course. We'll pipe that in here, then drag in our container again. Collider, container, source. And you can now see we could already like simulate the whole here. You can see it will not stay in the boundaries. Just let's get a little bit higher with the resolution. Okay, reset viewport. Because I currently cannot see my grains, which is okay. Now we got that. Nice. So we got our grains here. And we've got our collider. Is this also the... Let's see if it's... Oh, because I displayed the little visualizer. Okay. Now we can see that. Maybe we'll make it like a little bit thinner, but we can do that in the end. Okay, so don't have the visualized display flag on, otherwise your shading spheres will not be shown. What we can do, we can disable the ground plane because we basically don't need that. And after that, what we can do, let's do one thing. Let's place our attribute up here. And what I want to do, I want to get like here a set mask. And what I want to do basically is to create a mask on our npm points so we can later use that, for example, for shading or advection, blending points, and so on and so on. So I want to fit that between minus 0.5 and 0.5 and bind that out to, let's say, attrib underscore mask. And this is our shading mask. we can view that. Let's go on here and here. Should or not. Now we see something. Let's go here and mask, and it should be 0.5. This is wrong. 0.5, minus 0.5 and 0.5. I was wrong at the output, of course. And now that should work with a value between 0 and 1. And adjust the contrast here. But what I want to do, I want to adjust a little bit more the frequency. And what we need to do, copy the name and also get that on the output in here. Otherwise, we will not have that. Okay. Gravity, we got basically everything set up. Now let's work on our second collider. And we can do that with, for example, let's get a curve. And what I want to do is just to draw a basic here. I don't know, let's start like this. So this is completely random. You can also play around with a procedural drawing, or you could try noises to like that. You could also try noises to advect or to move your collider. I will just use that for now because I find it a really funny way to do it, because it's a basically human analog input with error or with of course like imperfection. Okay, after that I want a polybevel. I want to place down a resample node, and important one is the carve node, and we'll use basically the carve node here. We will use that to make the thing grow. So what I want to do, I want to get a pretty high value here. And then, for example, frame 240, make a keyframe here again. And we've got the whole thing animated. What we can do, we can hit, or we can select the carve node, hit Shift Alt F on our keyboard, and this will bring up the animation editor, and then we can, for example, switch that linear here. Then another thing, let's template our little box here, or our rain viscous initialized geometry, or our viscosity container. And what we need is another collider. So here, of course, also the possibilities are endless. You can use a custom collider, you can use a fork, I don't know, a spoon, an alien, whatever you basically like. I'm pretty basic today, and I will use just a tube. And let's make that a little bit smaller. Well, let's just use 2, why not? Tube, copy, transform. And what we need to do is to end here. And I want to and then match size. And justify Y to minimum. And then we can have a look. What I want to do is to transform that up later. What I want to do is to go to the blast, isolate 0.0. So we now only have basically 1 or 0 traveling around here. And what we then can do is place down a copy the points. That point, get that one. And now we basically have our traveling collider here. And I want to animate that a little bit. But before that, let's just offset that. And then I want to animate it like coming in. Maybe 1 second. Something like that. And let's see how that will look. So we will need another collider here. We will join them together. And the cool thing is now here we can use animated deforming work, because I think animated rigid will, oh, that will also work. Yeah, because it's okay. Cool. And then and simulate that whole thing. And there are like a few parameters that are changed. For example, I introduced like a tiny little bit of plasticity. I decreased the viscosity a little bit. And the stiffness. So the stiffness I want to add 1.85 or something like that. And now what we can do, basically simulate here. Let's see. I think I'm also currently on like the newest driver. So be sure to use that. And yeah, it will drop out a little bit here on the corner. But the cool thing is what we can do here now is to, for example, display here our masking attribute. And we can have a look at that, which is, I think, pretty cool. So now what we can do is just create a simple file cache. And you can cache that out. I already did that. So I got a file cache prepared here with my other kind of geometry. And what I did here, I simulated it in a higher resolution. So that was 0.0075, and this is currently 0.015. So we can really get in there and dial up the resolution a little bit, which I think is pretty cool. And after that, so those are currently points, of course. And what you then can do, play around with it. So there are like multiple, I think, ways to of course render that. What you can do, we got a particle separation, let's copy that. And we got a node called particle fluid surface. So it just, we like treated our npm source as a honey, as a viscous type of geometry. So why not mesh it like that? So we can then mesh it here and set the adaptivity. I will set that to 0 because I don't want that. What we then can do, of course, jump a few frames forward. And what I really like is that because we basically initialize boundaries, the cool thing is that we have like this overlap, but we also get some kind of like displacement going on. And when we view at it at a side, we will, create like a simulated kind of landscape, which is pretty cool. What I want to do is to smooth it out. So on filtering, smooth, and then just like some high value, for example, like 15. I think that should be pretty nice. Cool. I already set up like a little render attribute. And after that, of course, you know how to make it with how to set up Octane or Redshift. And I will do it in Octane now. So OC mat 001. And now we can basically play with different materials here. So that's a cool thing. Let's go and just rebuild one. So material builder. OC mat 001. And I want to use that material on my geometry, so let's drag and drop it on here. And there's already like a simple HDR in there set up. And I've set up the camera. So now you can see we are rendering, which is pretty cool. And of course now you can play around with the materials. So for example, a metal material I think would be pretty cool. Yeah, that already looks pretty cool. But I think what do a cool job would be not the volumetric specular, but the specular material. Yes. And chat, get in the roughness a little bit higher. Or another cool material, I think would also be, let's get a standard material, like some subsurface scattering. Subsurface scale, that down a little bit, like 0.05. And of course, with something like that, the ideal way would be then like a really harsh light source. But I think that also looks pretty cool. Looks something like ice. Okay, then another thing. I don't know if that will work, but let's see. If we have our fluid surface, what we could do after that, because we got a pretty good amount of geometry. But what we could do is to subdivide it one more time. The question is, I think that should be the right one, like the right algorithm. And then with a point warp, we could introduce like a little bit more displace detail. So displace along normal. And then we will need an anti-alias noise. And what I want to do, I want to not fit it because I want negative and positive details. Have that here. And now let's go for a really high value. Let's go for like 50 in each direction. And then of course down with the scale. Let's go for 0.005 and the frequency. Let's just pipe a constant in here so we don't always need to change three values. Of course, when you want like if you want to change your values independently, you then can just heal something like that, but I think that looks pretty cool. Let's go 75. And let's pipe that again in here. Let's also see how that will look with the glass shader, because I think that could be also pretty. Yes, a little bit more detail. It's nice. Let's try it with the glass shader. Yep. Does not look that bad. I think that's pretty cool for some more abstract looks, of course. Just down here, so that's pretty harsh. I think that can look really cool. Also, I think for the metal, I would go like lower and just go for like 5 on the frequency. Because I think that's maybe a little bit too much for like the metal. Yeah, just a little bit more smoother with like the metal. And then what I want to do is do one more R&D thing. Because currently we have like a boundary. And I think what would be cool if we just use our boundary to create some like push through thing. So we've got that one here. And what I want to do, let's go for this one. Delete non-selected. So we'll basically use like the other one. And then what we need to do is to extend our borders here a little bit. So expand poly, and it would be the outside, and it would be surface. No, offset. And it would be 5. And then what we could do is subdivide the thing. Subdivide. The question is how many times. I think that should be fine here. So what we then can do is create a group. Unshared edges. Then we can blast them away. And let's go this. And we can use a copy and the tube. So on each point we will copy a little tube. We'll just need to do it like that, and maybe we can get a little bit more resolution on the columns. I think that should be fine. And what we then can do is a simple boolean subtract a minus b, and b would be a surface. Surface. Oh, is it a viewport bug? Could be. Let's set it. Oh, it's union. Abstract. And then we can use that, for example, as our plate or our collider to push through. I think that would be also pretty cool. So we got now like those outside details. I think it's cool to have like a little bit boundary, but let's just try it like that. I think that should be also work fine. And make it a little bit bigger. And then we need, of course, let's just copy the transform here. And I want to see how. Okay, that should work. Let's just try it like that and see how that will look. Okay, they're running. Let's see. Because I think that we need like a little bit more resolution maybe. But let's have a look. Okay, viscosity thingy is falling down. And now we should displace them with the color. We need to go deeper. We need to go deeper. Something around, I don't know, here. But a start looked promising. So let's try to get that again. So I think that could be like a really nice setup for, I don't know, like, oh yeah, that's really, that's really nice. That's cool. I think that could be like a really nice setup for like styrofoam pressing or something like that. I mean, that looks like that looks really funny. Let's just hash it out a few frames and just shade that instead of just. And we could also use, of course, our. Let's see how that affects or affected our custom attribute first, because okay, that's really cool. You can use it. You could use that beautifully as shading. Okay, I will just use that here. I think a good thing would be to like simulate that in a little bit higher resolution. But I think that should be fine. So let's see how just that will look. I think that could look cool in glass. Let's just use it as a medium. And then and something like that. Yeah, that looks pretty funny. Nice. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this little NPM style lesson. There will be more, especially for soft bodies, etc. And also that you know it, I'm currently working on like my new course, abstract in Houdini, but like with new Houdini, with the newest version, newest workflows, etc. And I hopefully will deliver that somehow this year or early next year. But yeah, if you got any comments for that or inspirational thought, etc., just leave that under the comments. That would be really helpful. Thank you, and till to the next one. Bye.